Hi, on today's video, I had a video with Des O'Connor's at the end of last week, so I didn't get time to really talk through my blog for this week, which was really about, is there ever really a good time to change careers or change jobs? Now, if you've watched any of my videos before, you'll see that I've talked about, and that's what I'm going to cover today, by the way, is there ever really a good time to change your career or your job? Now, in some of the videos that I've put on Facebook before, you will have seen that sometimes I work with people who have been made redundant and want to move very, very quickly into their new career, and some people that want to take a more stepwise approach. And it's horses for courses, really. It's whatever's going to work for you and whatever's not going to overwhelm you, because I'm a firm believer in taking not doing the whole out of the frying pan into the fire approach if it's going to make you feel even more overwhelmed. And actually, what's really interesting is that with my 3-step career reinvention program, which is called regroup, reboot and reinvent, I break that down into 3 key stages, and depending on who I'm working with, it can mean that we go through those stages really quickly, or sometimes it takes a bit more time. So for example, I was working with a lady recently who has been very connected to her job title, her status and where she's working. And it's only through working through some exercises objectively together and taking the emotion out of what she's feeling, rewiring some of her thought patterns about what she feels her career change means to her, that we're now on a plan and a course of action that's going to allow her to take the steps to her next role. And she's really excited about it, because I've kind of been her, captain steering the ship, to be able to talk her through those steps objectively. So there's a number of different ways to reinvent your career. Some people just like to be able to jump quickly and go, yeah, I'm doing that. And some people, for whatever reason, whether it's due to practicalities or it's just their personality type, want to take a bit more of a stepwise approach. So is there ever really a good time to change your role? Well, is there? I don't know. I don't think there is. I think what is really important is that you're not procrastinating on a decision. So if you've been unhappy for quite a while, if you're feeling like your lack of career fulfillment is having an impact on your mental health and you're not getting the support you need, then definitely I would say start thinking more concretely about your job change, because actually being bored and frustrated and unhappy in your career, it's just as stressful, and for some of us, and many of us, it's just as bad as being in a job where you're completely overwhelmed and you're running around. So actually being bored, frustrated and fed up is also just as draining for us mentally. So there's never going to be a perfect moment to change your career. I think sometimes what happens, and certainly with a lot of the people that I work with, I'm just going to wave to someone on the call here. So I think what happens is that sometimes people need objective help to sit and reflect and work through, what is it I want from my career now? What company do I want to work for? How long do I want to work for? Where do I want to work for? What kind of hours do I want to work for? What kind of environment do I want to work in? Because very often when we're in a situation, we're sort of very close to the situation. It's difficult for us to be objective. So there's never a perfect moment. I think what's really, really key is to understand for yourself, and you'll probably be the best judge of this, about whether are you putting off a decision? Are you procrastinating? Because sometimes we procrastinate because we're scared of making the wrong decision. We're scared of the unknown. We're scared for lots and lots of different reasons, and this can stop us making a decision, and it can give us that kind of sense of inertia. Do you feel like you're making excuses? Oh, it'll be all right when. It'll be okay when. Because very often that's a sign that we're putting something off. And sometimes we can feel, I've certainly worked with clients who feel that they're very attached to their job title. They're very attached to their position. They're very attached to this individual role and think this is the only role that they can do. Their job title is exactly who they are. Well, it's not. You're much more than that. And actually, your job title and what you do in your career can take many, many different guises, especially in this day and age where there's different ways of working, new industries are popping up all the time, new roles are popping up. So we're never just our job title. And sometimes people will make excuses, and I'm not trying to be critical, it's just we all do it. We kind of fear change and we make excuses to stay where we are. Sometimes as well, people will sort of feel a loyalty to a company. Maybe you've been there for a long time, maybe you've been there since the company started up, and people can feel very loyal to a particular company and that causes them to stay. But generally speaking, there's a fear there, a fear of change, a fear of the unknown. And I think as humans, we just have to let go of the fact that we can control everything in our life. We can't. We can take practical steps. We can identify what we want. We can identify what we don't want. We can get help and support. But sometimes we can be very good at kind of making excuses to stay where we are. And that is a form of procrastination. Oh, I'll do it when. I'll do it when. And that's when I would usually sort of challenge my clients sometimes to say, well, hang on a minute, what is really keeping you here? On the one hand, you're telling me you're deeply unhappy with the role such as it is, or the industry that you're in, or the profession that you're in, and you're really motivated towards change. But on the other hand, you're not kind of really making steps towards it. And that's my role, is to really unwire what that conflict is. And it's fine, it's acceptable to understand that with any change comes fear. But actually, there's never going to be a perfect moment to change your career sometimes. Yes, all right, by all means have a plan. But sometimes there's never that perfect moment. And actually, sometimes that goes across all other areas of life. Very often I talk about the fact that what I work on with my clients in their career can be aligned to other areas of their life. So some of the tools, some of the techniques can be applied to relationships, health, other decisions in their life, confidence. And really it's about, are you focusing on reasons to stay where you are out of fear, or are you willing to be really confident and live life on your terms? Really own the fact that, yes, I can find something I love to do. Yes, I really want to live my life on purpose. Yes, okay, there may be practical considerations, but I can work around those. I can find a plan around those. So it's worth thinking about whether you're sort of making excuses for staying where you are. The other thing to bear in mind is with any change that actually making the decision is just the first step. And I've read some interesting research today, and it was from, I think, Entrepreneur magazine, saying that actually, just trying to find the numbers here, that only 10% of happiness in life is attributed to making a decision. So for example, your decision to change your career or to change something else in your life is going to have a 10% impact on your life. Now, for a certain amount of time, that 10% may feel like really euphoric. Yes, I've done this, I've made the change, I've made that decision. That's great, but actually it's about what happens after that. And the research showed that actually genetics, in terms of our happiness and how we make decisions, plays a huge part. But also 40% of our happiness about making a change in life comes from everyday life. So if this helps, if you're fearful of making a big decision, the fear is actually around making that decision. But actually what you can do, as research and studies show time and time again, is to find happiness in those everyday moments in life. And I think this is where the transitional piece of a career change comes into place. Yes, don't get me wrong, when I see clients making a decision and I've helped them, I've been that objective set of eyes and ears, guiding them through what they do want versus what they don't. That is an amazing feeling to see somebody wake up and go, do you know what? Yeah, I just don't want to do this anymore. I think I want to go in this direction. And it's wonderful for me and it's wonderful for my clients. However, this is about momentum. So perhaps, I don't know if that would help some of you take the sting out of the fear of just making that initial decision. because believe you me, it's about the actions and new steps that you take after that, about the momentum that you have in seeing through that plan. And actually, you know, this is why mindfulness, gratitude, appreciation, finding happiness in everyday life and finding happiness in the small steps that you take towards that career change will be much more rewarding in the longer term. So I just thought that was an interesting piece of research to understand that, yes, that initial decision, you know, if it's something you've been unhappy about and you're taking steps away from that towards something, that the pain of staying where you are is just too much and actually negates any fear of change. That's amazing. And as I say, working with clients to see them take those steps is really rewarding for me and for them. But then after that, it becomes about momentum, because if you just make the decision and stay where you are, that feeling is going to subside. So it's about, how do you find happiness every day? How do you appreciate every day? How do you find gratitude every day? How do you do things for other people, which creates a lot of our own happiness by doing things for other people and getting out of our own heads and our own bodies, and doing things for other people really makes a difference. So it's going to be about how you keep the momentum going in that plan. You know, it's that sort of, oh, I've made a decision, but now how do I see it through? So I hope that might help some of you who may be thinking, oh, I'm scared of making the decision. Perhaps you might want to write down as well, what are you tolerating? Perhaps write down almost like, you could call it your excuses list. I don't want to be too judgmental about that, because I've been in that situation myself. I'm sure we've all been it, whether it's relationships, careers, starting a business, health, whatever it is. Oh, I'll do it when. Maybe you want to write down a list of my I will do it when's list and kind of look at them and say, right, what is the cost of me tolerating all of these things? I'll do it when. And what could I be losing out on? And if happiness, health, you know, feeling less stressed, less anxious is going to come into play, then I'd firmly recommend you look at those lists. So just to recap what I've covered this evening, and again, this is on a blog on my website. There's a shorter version, and it's called, Is There Ever a Right Time to Change My Career? No, it's called. It's this. Figure out whether you are somebody who, you know, are you being honest with yourself? Are you just ready to make that jump? And it's like, do you know what? I'm going to jump and deal with it later. You may well be somebody like that, particularly if you've got a bit of a redundancy package behind you, or there's some other freelance or other opportunities in the background. Whatever the reason is, you may just be somebody that's like, bang, I just want to act. Great. Are you somebody that perhaps needs more of a plan, which is fair enough? Remember, there's never a perfect moment for any change in our lives. I don't think, I mean, what's perfection anyway? There will be a right time for you, and hopefully your body and your mind will be so connected that you're like, do you know what? It is the right time to change. I just want to say hi to Mark. Thank you for joining, Mark. I'm just doing a video on, is there ever a right time to change your career? What are you tolerating? What are you putting up with? And what excuses are you making? Write it all down. I'm a big fan of writing things down, getting it out of our head, and then write down, what is that costing you? What is that costing you on a daily basis? Find somebody to talk this through with, a buddy, a mentor. Again, friends and family sometimes will have their own biases from their own experiences, not because they're bad people, just because they've known you for many years. So make sure you're getting some objective advice, or from somebody that you know has an expertise in this area. So talk through the process, and that's what I do with a lot of my clients. Remember, signs like you focusing on the annoyances at work, you have that dreadful feeling on a Sunday of not wanting to go into work. Are you feeling bored with what you're doing? Are you feeling like your relationships with your colleagues and your boss isn't quite where it was? Are you feeling like you've got a lack of direction? And especially if you're feeling stressed, you're starting to feel really, really down, because being fed up in your career is incredibly stressful. Most human beings like to work towards something. So, you know, we like to have a purpose, we like to have goals in life. So actually not having that, and particularly if your career is important and needs to go through some change, is really important to recognise. So those are some of the signs to look out for. And again, I did some videos last week which goes into many more details about signs that it's time to change your job. Remember that actually making the decision, never a right time, as I said. You might have different approaches to it. You might get to a point it's like, I cannot stay here anymore. But remember that 10% of, according to the research that I quoted, 10% of your happiness will be related to making that decision. 50% of our everyday happiness comes from genetics. 40% comes from day-to-day experiences. So I don't know if that helps to kind of take the sting out of making that decision. That is just the first step. And as I mentioned, I work with many clients who say, oh, you know, we work through the process at a pace that's right for them. I'm objective in terms of pulling out what they're looking for, what they don't want. But just if it helps you at all, whether it's career or whatever it is, the first step is just making a decision to make a decision. And then after that, your sustained happiness will come from what are you doing on a day-by-day, stepwise process to chip towards your goals in whatever area of life it is. It just so happens I'm talking about careers. And remember that our own happiness comes from doing things for other people, showing appreciation, showing gratitude to others, doing lovely things for other people. As human beings, that's typically how we're wired. And so remember that just making the decision is the first piece. If it helps, it's about breaking it down into steps. What can you do on a regular basis? And that's where a coach, a buddy or mentor can help you, because otherwise you may find that initial euphoria of, yes, I've made the decision. Whilst it's great, it's very rewarding for me and for my clients and for anyone that's been in that situation. It's then about momentum and keeping going and identifying the ways that you find your daily happiness and how you find happiness in your career, what that translates to for you. So this has all been about, is it ever a good time to change? As I mentioned, the blog is on my website, which is www.sarah-j.com. The other thing I wanted to mention, I know that Mark's on the call, Mark Langford, who's a fellow speaker at a conference that I'm speaking at on the Saturday the 4th of August. It's called Women in Business, and it's men are welcome as well. There's a few free tickets left for this conference. It's in Jury's Inn in Birmingham. I think it's central Birmingham. There's about 18 speakers, all covering different aspects of health, happiness, careers. It's free. So if you head over to my Sarah J Coaching Facebook page, or if you're friends with me on my own personal page, you'll see the details there about how you can register for this free event. There's a great line of speakers. So for example, I know Mark's going to be talking about stress and anxiety. There's other people going to be talking about, you know, I'm going to be talking about how to get out of your career rut and giving tips that I've not shared so far. So there'll be exclusive content. I know that other people will be looking at other areas of health, happiness, business, making the right decisions in life. So it's going to be a great event for those of you that are in Birmingham on the 4th of August. The other thing to mention is that on Thursday at 7:30, I will be doing another Facebook Live with Des. So that's this Thursday, 7:30 UK time. We'll be spending about half an hour talking through more career aspects. So watch out on my personal page and my Facebook coaching page to see more information about the topic of that talk. But anyway, this has been about, is there ever a good time to make a decision on my career? Basically, what we've said is probably not. Some people jump into a new career very quickly, want to move the process very quickly. Some people like to plan. I've given you some of the signs of, you know, how you can tell you're unhappy in your career. And also, I've reassured you that taking that decision, there's never always a right time, but making that decision is the first part. It's then about the momentum and the planning, and your happiness is likely to come from your everyday actions and how you show up in the world. If that helps you to alleviate any procrastination or any excuses you might be using to sort of hold back on your career. So again, as I mentioned, it might be worth keeping a list of like, am I making excuses, or have I got a justified reason for staying where I am? If I'm making excuses, perhaps I can admit to myself, these are the excuses I'm making. What is that costing me? So it's been great having you on the call this evening. Thank you to those that have joined. And I'll be with Des O'Connor's on Thursday, 7:30, again talking about a really hard-hitting career aspect and I hope some of you can join that call then. All right then, have a good evening.